So some crazy winds here today. I've come out to the westernmost point of Zealand here in Denmark, and I'm out here to photograph this little lighthouse here in the background. The idea for this composition is to use the beach here that leads up to the lighthouse. So this here is going to be a full-blown vista photo, and I'm shooting at only 50mm, so not really telephoto, but close enough. I used my super zoom lens, the 28 to 200mm, and I've set it up down here behind me so that I can use the grass here in the foreground to create some depth. I, as just mentioned, will use the leading line here of the seashore, and I'm leading it in to my subject, which is the lighthouse. I also have these Moody clouds here today, so the idea is to have a nice dark background where the lighthouse can stand out on, and then I have, hopefully, because as you can see here, blue sky behind me, some dappled light that comes down through the clouds and lights up at the very least the area where the lighthouse is. It's also okay if the light lights up the foreground closer to me, but the point is that the lighthouse is being lit on this dark and moody background. So besides the lower perspective, I also want to try one with the taller perspective here. The thing is, I have these lakes down here in the foreground, and I actually think that the shot may be a little bit more simple and minimalist, so I don't have that depth from the grass here straight in your face of the viewer. Now, it's almost always impossible to say in the field which one of such two photos that would work the best. I would have to wait until I come back home in front of the computer to determine which one I like the most. But it's always important to cover your butts when you're in the field and get a few different compositions from the same location. Welcome to typical Danish summer weather. The shower absolutely soaked me, and that will not be the only time over the next 3 days that will happen. Look forward to that in the videos I'll release over the next weeks. Sadly, the clouds and light didn't line up exactly as I wanted it, but I did come away with a few photos that I like. I usually prefer my photos to be nice and dramatic with visible structures in the clouds, but I think I in this case prefer the right photo. The patch of trees on the right makes it slightly visually right heavy, but the simpler color palette and foreground does it for me. Let me know down in the comments which you prefer, or if you prefer the vertical version. So I've come past this really perfect field with some tractor tracks that just leads up into the sky. So you can see the scene right here in front of me, and it's just such a perfect scene. I'm simply just waiting for the clouds that comes from over here to kind of just move over there, and then I'm zooming of course a little bit in, a little bit more than this, and then I'm going to take the shot. It is just so graphical, this one here. And when the light breaks out, as you can see, the sun is up here behind me, behind some clouds right now, but once the sun breaks out and lights up that foreground, and then you have those clouds in the background, just looks so good. It's not moody in the classic sense that it is overcast and full of clouds and rain and whatever, but it's still some quite big, nice clouds. And I kind of think that blue sky above the clouds adds to the shot. Not moody, but still super graphical on a moody day. So there's plenty of light, so I'm also just hand-holding this one here. When the sun is not out and lighting up the foreground, I have these settings ISO 100 f/13, and it gives me a shutter speed of 1/200th of a second. Obviously, when the sun comes out and lights up that foreground, then I'm going to get a little bit faster of a shutter speed. So this is also one of those relatively easy roadside shots that you can just jump out the car, get, move on. I just love this photo. Who said Windows XP wallpaper? At one point the light was just perfect and I got a bit of that dappled effect on the foreground I like so much, where parts of it is lit and other parts are in shadow. On top of that, I got that somewhat uniform layer of clouds and blue sky above. It gives a freshness to the scene. It's a strong contender to become one of my favorite photos of 2024. And if you struggle with composing your photos and recognizing strong compositions in the landscape, be sure to get my ebooks on exactly that topic. The text is minimal, easy to understand, and is backed up by tons of examples. There are links to both the free light version and the full version down in the description of the video, along with a link to the follow-up. I drove a bit further up the road and passed by this scene. I originally did vlog it, but the sound screwed up. I found that the 3 layers of fields with the parallel tractor tracks looked super aesthetic, and I knew I just had to wait for some birds to fly into the scene. I used my 50-400mm lens at around 300mm, and even though the scene was somewhat far away, I still needed to stop down my aperture to f16 to get the 2 upper fields in focus. As I wanted to photograph some birds flying into the scene, I also had to up my ISO to 640 to get a fast enough shutter speed to freeze the birds in the flight. So I've ended up here in the roadside as I came by a row of trees with some beautiful hilly waving fields here in front. It is quite the moody photo because the background clouds are quite moody, but I think it looks pretty good. I'm a little uncertain whether the spacing between the trees are a little bit too narrow. It's hard to really get enough space along the edges of the frame to isolate them inside the frame. But I'm trying a few different compositions, both horizontally and vertically, and I'll show you the one I prefer the best. Besides the trees, I also have some tractor tracks that leads up to the moody cloud. So a nice leading line into a moody sky. It would just be nice to have a bird flying into the scene, or a tree standing on the top of the hill, or a tower or a mill or something like that. I'm also very low down to the ground, and I'm using the weed here in front of me to create a little bit more depth in the photo. And then I use the weed in the foreground that leads you into the background and into the trees. Settings wise, it's quite simple. ISO 100, f16, and the shutter speed is whatever it is. It's plenty of light, so it's not really hard to handhold this one, especially not with image stabilization on. This collection is fine, but definitely not as strong as the previous couple of photos. It wasn't my intention to turn this video into a rural field photography video, but there was just so many interesting shapes in these landscapes. The photos in this video didn't require a whole lot of editing, mainly some sky and foreground selections, some dodging and burning, color control, and some other local adjustments. If you struggle with editing and want to learn how I edit my photos, be sure to use the coupon code to get 15% off when enrolling in my post-processing course, Photoshop for Landscape Photographers. If you already use Lightroom or Camera Raw, it's easy to get started. In this course I cover all the different techniques I use to edit my photos, the above mentioned, but also how I clean my photos properly, work with atmosphere and glow, edit with luminosity masks to avoid classic editing mistakes, and much more. There is a link along with the coupon code down in the description of the video. So I want to end today's telephoto lens mood video with a shot of that. How about that? For an epic climax. Massive rain shower coming straight towards me. Beautiful colors in the sky. And then it's just like engulfing this little island here in front. Looks epic. Simple yet dramatic, showing how big these clouds really are. If you want to learn even more about editing or composition, be sure to check out my educational material down in the description. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. See you next week, where I'm trying out a new camera and get some amazing photos. Ooh!